You are watching a Fact TV presentation of the town of Swanzey.
We have a motion to for regular meeting minutes.
March 9th. Thanks. Second. Thank you.
Okay, Megan, anybody have any changes or questions? Megan, I have a few.
Okay.
Do you have it up?
Okay.
First paragraph, second paragraph under organization. Second line, the selectmen will serve rotationally on the planning board. There's no mention here of the planning board, so I just want planning board in it.
Okay.
Because we're not rotating on the other committees, it's just the planning board.
Okay.
Is there some for this? Is there some for this? Okay.
All right. Page 2 under public input. I just would like to have added in there that during the course of the discussion, it was determined that the town does not have frontage on Wilson Pond Road.
Okay.
Then under new business, the third paragraph, there's on the next to the last line, it says, setup of the town leadership with consideration of switching from a town administrator to a town manager. That was one aspect, but there were multiple aspects, so I'd rather have that stricken, so that we're not confining that committee.
Okay.
I think that was it.
I'm on.
Good. All right. Amended.
All. As amended. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve the non-public meetings number 1 on March 19th. Non-public meeting number 2, non-public meeting number 3, and non-public number 4. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So,
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Megan, I understood that the gravel tax levy was going to be removed and revisited next week.
Excavating?
Yeah. Adam wanted to look into it. Adam Paquette.
Yep. So strike E.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Public input. Wow. How exciting is this? It's got to be you, Mark.
Yeah, tell these people.
Anybody have anything they'd like to bring to the board's attention?
No.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
It's more of a question. Just we're talking Swansea Road. On Holbrook Ave, 319 Holbrook Ave, the brown house just west of Swansea Lake in Holbrook, there's a street light there. And I have the pole information. I'm just curious why it's there in front of a residence and not at an intersection where it would be more beneficial. And who's paying for it? And if there was a permit code for it or whatever. I don't know if this is the right place to do it, but you know, I usually run out there late at night and I work out right at And that's how I noticed it. And, you know, it's down there, and I don't know how it serves the public.
Did you say it was not working?
It is working, and I'm curious. I have the poll information right here. Appreciate you taking notes.
George, if you can give that information to Megan now, and we can look into it. A few years ago, we did review all the streetlights in town, and several of them were discontinued. So we have to go back into the minutes to determine why that particular one was maintained.
So this young lady,
Yep.
and should I give it to her now? Or
Sure.
Copy that. Thank you. So I have a poll number of 14, 42, 17, and I believe it's 119 Holbrook Ave.
Okay. Yep.
Anybody else? Thank you, George.
Thank you. Thank you.
I made a mistake. I'll give you yours back. So you go.
Thank you.
All right, well, this is a very exciting time for us as a town. We had the opportunity to put together a committee last year that we referred to as the Fire Station Building Committee, and the results of it were phenomenal, not only in terms of the work that all of you all did, but the end result. I don't think any of us could have been prouder. We had no idea that you were going to be able to put in the effort and the time and bring together the right resources, and then the marketing to support it. And some of you were incredibly strong supporters and pushing back on the keyboard warriors, and you came out with facts and solid information, and because of your efforts, we have a location for our fire station, and work's already begun. So we greatly appreciate what you did. Thank you very much. What we'd like to do is call you up individually so we can give you our sincere appreciation and a handshake, and just encourage you to consider the fact that there's other committees that we're going to be bringing forth this year, and your participation would be greatly appreciated. We'll give consideration to two in particular. One is the one that we referenced earlier in our minutes, and that is that we'd like to assemble a committee that would review town governance, compare how we're governing ourselves with other communities, and bring forth a recommendation to the board towards the end of the year, something that we could potentially put on the ballot. And this was all generated by the idea of people to go back to town meeting, which is one idea that we would ask the committee to consider. They could come back and say no, but at least it would be considered. Another would be the consideration of switching from town administrator to town manager. Another would be to go to a charter with a council type of governance. And then another would be the return of a 5-member board to a 3-member board. Whatever the committee wants to consider. We hope that they'll do the same work and put the same effort in and come up with the same results as the fire station committee did. So if you want to just hand me one, we'll call out. Yep.
So I'd like to give a shout out to the chairman, Jay. I know he's my friend sitting next to me here. But he really kept this committee going. He took on work. He just charged forward with it. Sometimes we felt like we were sitting in the classroom, but it was all good. And the end results and the marketing of it just was impeccable. So.
How appropriate that he happens to be on top of the pile. So Jay Ward.
I just want to say one of the reasons I think this is a very good meeting is that everyone who's here also deserves a lot of praise for what we were able to accomplish. And I take a lot of everybody comes up and congratulates me, but a lot of other people on the committee did a lot of work too. And it's really nice to see you.
Mark Lavelle. Mark doesn't want to be acknowledged, but he put a tremendous amount of effort into this. So. Chief Matson, Eric. Solaire. Bob DeRocher. Appreciate your efforts and your communication. Thank you. Oh, Jim Jarzabek, but Jim was unable to be with us tonight. He hoped to be here. Bob Mitchell the same. Kenny Greatbatch decided to ghost us. What a shame. Kathy Bergstrom. Stacy. Just before we go on, one of the things that I've done as a selectman is to read the Swanzey grumbling, Swanzey uncensored, and the Swanzey community. And there are occasionally people that post things that aren't necessarily positive about the town. And I've chosen not to respond directly, but I've reached out to them individually by direct messaging. And I've had 4 or 5 who've actually responded. The rest of them don't. But the one I'm proudest of is Stacy Goodell. He responded, and we corresponded several times during the course of the year, and then he graciously accepted the opportunity to be a part of the committee. And what you did, Stacy, online was truly phenomenal. You've got one heck of a backbone. So good for you. Mike Burke is not able to be with us, but he asked if the chief would accept it for him. One more, Chief. Keith Bell was unable to be with us. Jeff had dinner plans. I tried to get him to go to Tempesta's, but he chose to go to Longmore because he heard.
Well, you ain't getting that.
Bob Smith participated but was unable to be here. Greg Johnson is unable to be here. Brian Rogers participated but was unable to be here. And Russell Penny. So for those of you who are here and those who couldn't make it, thanks again very much. Regional Planning Commission presentation on the next generation transit system.
Hello.
Hi.
It's okay if I sit here?
Sure.
Really looking at the back.
Yeah.
You should have in your packet a copy of the project as well. If you don't, I'm happy to bring it up. But I am Terry Johnson. Of course, I'm the Southwest Regional Planning Commission. I serve as Senior Project Manager there and also Mobility Manager on behalf of our Monadnock Regional Coordinating Council that supports community transportation throughout the Monadnock region of Cheshire County. My colleague, Jason Cooper, is back there as well, too, who's a team member of this project. And what I wanted to do is present a project that's been really 4 years in the making, really even before that, there have been efforts for decades to improve transit services within the Monadnock region. And so this project, the Next Generation Project, that's what that's about. So the whole purpose of the project is to expand transportation services to more people and areas of the region. And the project itself would either supplant or augment the current transit system that we have. This project would actually be rolled out in phases based on funding that's available and based on political will and interest within the region. And Right now, our transit services that are operated by home health care, hospice, and community services, and they serve the city of Keene. They serve the city of Keene only at this point. They do run some shopping trips out to Market Basket. And then in terms of services in the rest of the region, we have Community Volunteer Transportation Company, which is a volunteer driver program that serves the entire region. And Keene Senior Center is another provider for volunteer driver services as well, and they serve communities within the western part of Cheshire County. So the project is, initially, phase one of it is slated to expand services to the greater Keene area. So that would include the urbanized areas of Keene, of Swanzey, and of Marlborough as well, too. And one of the reasons why that is being targeted initially is it's a major population center within the region. It houses a lot of jobs and workforce. It has a lot of populations that rely on transit services as well. And so from there, though, then we would look at expanding services out to other transit services out to other parts of the region as well. The way that this would be rolled out is through instituting a micro-transit service, which is like Uber, basically Uber service, but subsidized with federal funds and other funds. And it would be an on-demand service, so you would be able to basically use a phone app, and you would be able to book a ride and get a ride immediately. And it would most likely supplant the existing fixed route bus service that's operated in Keene at this point. They currently run 2 loops around the city to the key destinations within the city. And the transit system currently serves mostly older adults and people with disabilities. Although the City Express is available to anybody that wants to ride it. They also operate the Friendly Bus, which is an on-demand service for people with disabilities and older adults. And they offer medical transportation service to the Dartmouth Medical Center in the Upper Valley. We have spoken with HCS about this on a couple of occasions, and they are not interested in operating an expanded transit system, and they are perfectly okay with looking for another entity to operate that, if we can make that happen, and we are in the process of searching for that now.
Are you saying they would be open to someone else operating the system that they're currently operating?
That's correct, yeah. And we would, of course, negotiate with them about, taking on their capital resources and their, as well as the funding sources that they're currently using as well. It's possible that they may continue to operate, for example, the Friendly Bus, but we're not sure about that. That's something that we would be working with them on. The main focus of the project right now is to identify an operating model for it, and then also to identify an entity to be the transit system manager, system sponsor. And there are several systems that we're looking at to do that. One is either a county-operated system. It could be a joint powers agreement between multiple municipalities. It could also be specially designated entities similar to the coast service that supports the seacoast. That would be created by state law. Or it could be just a nonprofit entity as well, too, which HCS is. This morning we did meet with Southwestern Community Services, and they did express an interest in taking on the system. I will tell you that the timeline is to spend the next couple of years really trying to, first of all, by the end of this fiscal year, to identify the model, and then to ultimately have a pretty good feel for who will be stepping up to operate the system. So we're meeting now with different entities that may do that. We met with the Mover yesterday, which provides transit services in Vermont. But they also do provide transit services along the Connecticut River between Walpole and Hinsdale as well. I met with their board yesterday. They do seem to be interested in taking this on, and of course they have a lot of expertise in that as well. But as I said, our goal is to try to identify that entity by the end of this fiscal year. and then to ultimately look to stand up the system by fiscal year 2028 is our goal. The system will more than double the number of users that are currently riding the current system. It will be expanded into new areas. We will also work to establish a critical medical service, medical care service, which will be guaranteed rides for people that are trying to get to medical appointments. And right now, the primary trip purposes of our current transportation system are medical and shopping, but we also want to serve other populations like commuters and that sort of thing. So part of the expansion includes expanding hours of operation. The current system does not support that. You could not use the current transit system if you're working during the day to get to and from work. We did hire a consultant to help us, actually kind of do the final design on the system and the profile that you see within the handout that I shared. And what we're doing now is we're talking to both potential operators as well as contributors. So it's one of the reasons why I'm here tonight as well, is to, because services would be expanded into Swanzey, is to talk about, whether Swanzey would consider providing funds to match the federal sources for this as well. And we'll be meeting with all those select board next week for the same purpose. We met with the city team recently and on a couple of occasions, and they are very much interested in supporting the system as well. We feel like between the match funds that will be needed from the municipalities involved in the system, as well as from the federal funds that we're bringing in to support the system, that it's very doable. We're looking at probably about just a little bit over $1 million to institute the initial system. We will pilot it. If it works, then we'll be looking to expand services out to the Eastern Monadnock region, which isn't served by transit at all right now. They do have access to the volunteer driver program. And then ultimately up the Route 10 corridor as well, too, between Keene and Winchester. So, like I said, we've been at this for a long time. Michael Brandon did serve on our advisory task force and provided input into the process. We've got a lot of municipalities that are represented, all the municipalities in the Keene area are represented, plus Peterborough and others. Major institutions have been a part of this. They're interested in it as well on behalf of their employees. And so we're coming to you just mainly at this point to present the project and to put forward for Swanzey's consideration participating in the project as a financial contributor as well. We're looking at probably about $150,000 in contributions from Keene, Marlborough, and from Swanzey as well to help match the federal funds that we're providing to support this system. City of Keene is currently, they would transfer their support to HCS. They provide currently a little over $100,000 for the current transit services, but we would expect that they would provide quite a bit more than that as well. So that's what I wanted to present to you tonight. We know that this is going to take a period of time to get the pieces of the operating puzzle and funding puzzle in place, and we'll be working on that for the next 2 years. Our organization did get another third DOT grant to take this project one step further, and that's to provide technical assistance and support to help whoever the operator is to stand up the system by fiscal year 28. So I'll open up to any questions that anybody has.
Where did the projection of clients come from? That's a rather substantial jump from what is currently to the projected number.
Yeah, we did have a consultant, Via, who did the original transit study, which we published in 2022. And you can, that is online on our website, and you can see in there, all the methodology and everything that they use. But the demographics that are being served, looking at the performance of the existing system, but then also comparing, for example, the Via, the company that did the study, they operate microtransit services around the region, and around the country and other places as well. So they're looking at their experience with that. We also know that Brattleboro has piloted microtransit services. Mover is operating those currently, which is a smaller population than Keene, and their transit system is serving a lot more than what these numbers are as well. So, we're looking both at the formula that VA used in terms of how to project this based on the area and the population being served, as well as looking at other microtransit operations around the country and around the area across the border as well to look at those numbers. And in talking to Mover, they are confident that if they were running the system, they would be able to meet those projections.
I thought that there was some service coming into some of the facilities up in North Swanzey area.
There were shopping trips that were operated by HCS, and so they were serving some of the older adult facilities in West Swansea, and for a while they were running trips from there up to Winchester as well. But there just wasn't enough usership to make it worth their while, so they cut that back. They do continue to operate the shopping shuttle. I don't believe it continues to serve those areas. So they cut back on their shopping shuttle services, and but the City Express does serve those areas as well. But that's for Keene residents. So as far as I know, I don't think that those areas are being served at this point.
Anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned,
Just need your name for the.
Claudia Stewart, Branch County Commissioner as well. I've heard this presentation recently, made it to the county commissioners, and I'm sure that they relayed that I'm not at all in support of this, because the funding for this, as you mentioned, or your group mentioned, would require taxation from towns that are not going to be served. So when you talk about this Uber style that would need to be subsidized, who exactly is subsidizing it? Who is it going to serve? Since Keene is generally the focus of time, energy, and dollars, the rest of the county is very underserved, and I don't see this providing any service to any of my constituents in Range or any of the communities that elected me. But I do understand you plan on taxing everybody, not just towns that are signing on to get services from you, but you would need to subsidize your budget on the county level. So that's a question.
Well, I mean, we certainly would approach the county on that, and they are currently providing support for the current transit system. Initially, the only communities that would be asked to contribute funding would be Swanzey, Keene, and Marlborough to support the Greater Keene service. In the meantime, there are transit services there are public transportation services that serve the entire region, all the communities that you represent. That would be community volunteer transportation.
No, I understand that. I'm only talking about what your expansion plan is. I'm not talking about the ones that currently exist. I'm talking about you're planning on serving the Greater Keene, and you're going to ask everybody to, once again, finance the Greater Keene. And
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
If you're asking the county for money, the county gets its money from my constituents and everybody else in this room. So if you're going to ask the county for money, you're asking everybody to support a Keene-centric public transportation system.
Initially, with long-term goals to expand those services.
And what's the long term? You're going to ask
Claudia, I'll let that discussion happen when they come to the delegation and the board. This tonight is just with regard to Swanzey. Appreciate the question, though. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to understand the figure better. Sorry, Kristen Reynolds, Swanzey. Did I hear correctly that you're figuring that this will be $1 million? Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
You think it'll be about $1 million?
With expanded transit services and critical medical ride services.
And is that $1 million to be split between Keene, Swanzey, and Marlborough?
No.
No.
Approximately $150,000 to $160,000 of that would be,
150 to 260,000?
no, 160.
160. Would come from each town would contribute around that amount?
Combined.
Combined.
With the city of Keene providing by far the largest amount
Okay.
of that. And if you're curious about where the rest of the funding is coming from, it comes through the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, through federal transportation funds.
Taxes.
It comes from taxes, it comes from us.
Yeah.
You can word it any way you want, but we're paying it.
It's taxes.
I do have a question, if it's George Hoffman, Swanzey. So, did I hear you say that there was already some sort of effort to provide transportation for elderly people for shopping and medical needs, and there wasn't a real need for it?
No. That's the biggest need.
Yeah, but I thought you said that it was discontinued because there wasn't a lot of call for it. Did I misunderstand you?
No. Our region total, through NHDES, Community Volunteer Transportation Company.
And I'm speaking only for Swanzey. I only care about Swanzey.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Keene or Brattleboro. That's why I moved out of Keene.
Number one, trip purpose is for medical transportation, just medical appointments. Number two is for shopping trips. Yeah.
Because, well, I don't know if this is the proper place, but, we pay a lot for county and state taxes just to have a vehicle. And I don't want my money going for people that aren't doing the right thing and not providing themselves transportation, young people. I'll support elderly people all day long. That's all I got to say on that.
Thank you, George. Anyone else?
I have one question. So you had said that the company...
Identify yourself so everyone knows who you are, because you're not a resident.
I'm not a resident. I'm Megan. I'm the HR coordinator for Swanzey. So you had shared that the company in Brattleboro expressed the ability to explore stepping in and taking on that service. Are they fully staffed at this time? Because it's a difficult time to hire people who will show up and do the job. So are they currently fully staffed?
I mean, we didn't talk about that issue. I mean, they're definitely fully staffed, the drivers and admin staff to operate their existing services, and they operate in Brattleboro and other areas of Vermont as well. What we did talk about yesterday is what would be their readiness to expand services, and they're fully confident that, one, they have the experience to do it, and two, they have the capital, the buses and the vehicles, and they have, as far as I know, staff as well. They're currently running services into our region. So they do have a vehicle that provides medical transportation, for example, to Cheshire Medical Center and other places. So.
But you don't know if they're fully staffed?
As far as I know, they are, yeah. I mean, they didn't express that would be any concern.
Okay.
So Terry, where are we in the formative stage? You mentioned 2028.
Yes.
And the reason I ask is that this would be something that would run through maybe our Economic Development Committee and Capital Improvements Committee. So how far out are we before they would weigh in?
I would say within the next 6 months to a year or so. I mean, we would, I think it might be helpful. We would like to get a sense, that all the municipalities that are involved in the Greater Keene Transit Service, that there's a possibility that they could contribute to it. So, I mean, maybe the sooner we can get in front of them, the better. If we feel like that would be helpful to present that information sooner than later.
Again, depends upon the timing that you're seeking, but
Yeah.
we're obviously town meeting oriented, and any expenditures would need to go on the warrant for 2026
Right.
or 2027, whatever the timing is. I'm just letting you know that those two committees in general would be interested in hearing about it.
Absolutely.
Question, Council.
Yeah, and HDS currently collects roughly $15,000 per year in rider fares. For some of their services, riders can contribute if they want to, like for for the friendly bus, for example, it's free. But they do ask for contributions, if people do that as well.
So they would use it through a cell phone application?
Exactly.
But you say that older people and people with disabilities are the main riders there. Are they going to be able to use a cell phone?
There will still also be a central call center.
So they call them.
Yeah. Good questions.
With regard to the revenue stream, is it fair to extrapolate that you're projecting roughly a 20 times increase in ridership that would potentially take that 15 to 300,000?
Not a 20 times increase in ridership.
Right.
I mean, we're looking at more than a doubling of ridership from the current 29,000 rides per year with the HCS system to 60.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at critical care.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep.
All right.
And the current system does cost about $750,000 currently. And so this, this would be an increase for that, but we're also talking about ridership and what areas served and that sort of thing. And we also would be looking, for example, if Uber was to be implementing the system, we would also look to them to provide financial support as well to help. And they could work with NHDES to help secure funding for the operation as well.
Anyone else?
Just kind of more questions, Council. Would the vehicles be a bus-like vehicle like you're talking about, like you're doing now, or they're doing now, or would it be individuals, vehicles, the drivers owning vehicles?
Yeah, the vehicles would be owned by the transit provider, and they are basically vans or small buses. For example, HCS right now operates, I think, 12 and 16 passenger buses. I mean, we would actually take on some of their operating employees as well too. They're either small buses or a van. It's like a bus. I mean, a small vehicle, commercial vehicle that's been a van.
Anyone else? Megan? Thank you, Terry.
Okay, thank you very much.
Chief Joe, Police Department update. How are we doing?
Still serving?
Oh, well, took care of the incident last night and this morning.
Yes, sir.
Good job.
Yeah, so if you get on our
Pleasure. So presently we're engaged with 4 applicants.
website.
One is a certified officer, and the other 3 have no certification, so they're not certified.
It's a big improvement from a month ago.
Yes, sir. And we're moving forward with those. Hopefully, we can bring on a couple of those applicants. Hopefully they work out. We're just at the very beginning stages. The applicant that is certified, he does have a contract. So we're looking at, possibly buying his contract out if that's possible. It's a substantial amount, it appears. I forwarded it to HR for review, and also maybe for legal's review to see what the exact amount's going to be.
Mattson. Welcome. Not gonna bring a colleague with you?
I can talk to Becky.
You can? I don't know if you can be heard, Mark. Or Meg, I'm sorry. Looking at Mark and talking to Meg.
I called you guys all individually, but we had Deputy Chief Nancy took a chief's job in Weldon. So his position, he had to kind of rapidly leave for that. I think at this point we're going to continue to move on. We'll pick up the training and stuff that he left us with and continue to move forward with that.
So you'll keep the same leadership?
Keep the same three right now. Yep. Yep. I think that'll still work just as well. And keep things moving forward.
Great.
Will it increase any other guys' hours now? No one we lost them?
Not really. Nope.
Keep it the same. We
Keep
have
the
the
same
coverage.
Same we are doing. Yep.
When we first started this, I was only around 1 day a week. Since then, I retired and I'm in the area 7 days a week, except for next week. But so I would be able to pick up a little bit of the time. It ends up, it doesn't hurt us at all, especially in midweek coverage. It doesn't really affect us at all. I have a background in training and did the training before Norm started. So it's not going to hurt us there either. But with that extra time, I can make up in the paperwork and that stuff. So I think the three of us are about capable of taking care of it.
Were you able to find a firefighter one last day?
We've been kind of looking. Nothing's popping up right off. So
What they do is the state schedules them all, but they do pop up during the year. So once a week we go on the state website and check to see if one of those classes has come up. The local one in Keene, we didn't find out about it until it was already full. So, but
the ones we have been finding, we've been trying to research it. Even if they're full, we're trying to at least get on some sort of call list. So
Last time you were here, you were talking about an animal rescue program?
yeah. So we've secured that. May 3rd, we're gonna have it at the fairgrounds. We spoke with them.
For people who weren't here, can you explain it?
Oh, sure. It's going to be for horses, cows, that kind of large animals. They go down in their barns and stalls and that kind of stuff, just to get them back up and on their feet. Because 1,000-pound animal is a little difficult to for some people just to move them around. Not to mention get them up onto their feet again. So they're going to teach us the safe way of how to approach them, deal with them, lift them up, and return them back to their owners.
To be honest with you, I didn't know that was part of your job. I heard of the cat in the tree thing. Cat in the tree.
Cats, birds, dogs.
I never seen it go in the stall and pick up a horse.
Right?
But wonderful that you do that. And I would imagine it's in dangerous situations if you're not trained for it.
Right.
This is a big animal that can really, you gotta know where to stand and what to do, right?
Absolutely.
When you're in small quarters, probably.
Right, we're in
situations
tight
like
quarters.
that. I think it's good that you're doing that.
Yep.
I never knew you would get the calls, like I said.
Yeah.
I thought it was just the cat in the tree, right?
that's why they call us all hazards.
Right.
So, anything else?
That's really about it.
So you think the new fire station is gonna build up some morale over there and maybe we get,
I'm hoping, yeah. I'm hoping,
We're continuing to have people come in and inquire. The signs, we were all really very skeptical about putting signs around town. But I've had a lot of people, a few people asking, about joining the department because they've seen signs. And if they're serious, what I was telling them is, you can give them my number, you can call me, we can get you an application, and get you over to see Reagan. So the stuff that we're doing is working. So
why do we need phase 3 power? In the fire
So
station?
our-
What do we use it for?
Yeah, so our air compressor for our SCBA takes that kind of power.
But I understand you have a booster over there that
We do.
makes it so the compressor can run, right?
Yep.
Could that booster be put into the other fire station?
Oh,
The new
no,
one?
no, sure. Yeah. Yep, it's just a wiring thing that they,
That's all
you
it
know,
is.
it's meant to boost up the
Just curious
power.
why we need a phase 3, like what do we use other than
That's really about it.
it is? So,
That, and I don't know what the elevator would use.
correct.
You know, that might be something else.
And when you fill tanks for the other stations, you have a center place where you fill these tanks, or that compressor just once? Or is this
No,
one
we
place?
fill all our bottles and stuff.
So the other stations would bring it to the compressor,
Yeah.
fill their tanks? and-
Yeah.
I just wanted to take the opportunity to ask that while
Yep.
you're there, so.
Yeah. We have an older one. It's still very serviceable, still works. It has a very tough time reaching the pressures that we need for these bottles.
I got it.
So we've kept that one. It works great for all our scuba divers and stuff. Minimal to keep up, so their tanks are much lower pressure, so it makes it a lot easier.
Just to expound on that, those ones are, the bottles we used to use filled to 2200 PSI. The ones that we're using now are at 4500 PSI. It gets to the 2200 in a decent amount of time, but in order to get it from 22 to 45 takes it a long time. And when you're resurfacing 8, 10, or 12 bottles at midnight after being out at a fire, or 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and it takes 40 minutes to do each bottle, then having this new, bigger one is huge for us when we got it.
And you have to do that at the end of that in case another fire breaks.
Absolutely.
You couldn't say, let's do this tomorrow, right? Because it's
Not,
dangerous.
not to be responsible, but no.
Okay.
I'd like to just add something on your question. If you've got 3-phase power running by any building like that, you're wise to put it in for future.
Say that again, Scott.
You're talking about 3-phase power.
Correct.
Right? If you've got 3-phase power going by where you're putting up a building, a larger building like that, these guys are gonna have, you're wisest to put in the 3-phase power because it opens up doors for, if they wanna add equipment there, motors are much cheaper when they're 3-phase as opposed to single-phase. They can still use single-phase stuff off of 3-phase, and it's a more balanced system in there. It's much better for the future.
I was just seeing how important it was because it's a very expensive thing to do. I mean,
3-phase
we're
doesn't
trying to
run
be
by that?
strong in the budget, so
3-phase doesn't run by that?
I'm not sure if it does, but I know it's very expensive. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars for 3-phase. So
Wow, I wonder if it's gonna be at that station.
it's very expensive. So I was just looking at, I wanted to know how important it was to have it. That's all. Because I was reading about it and I just figured would I have to take advantage of this. That's all.
And you're aware of how we're moving forward with the RFP for the general contract?
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if you and I got to talk about it, but do you understand the concept of how we put it together as compared to what was originally proposed?
I haven't seen the whole proposal. No.
Okay, so
I just saw the list of.
the original expectation was that KSC would prepare the construction drawings, and then we would go out to bid for the GC, which was going to push the start date out to September or October. So instead, we're going to engage GC, or their bids are due by April 28th, and that will give the GC the opportunity to work collaboratively with the architect as the drawings are being compiled. So a lot of the questions that would come in after would be handled going along, and that also gives you an opportunity to participate in the construction drawings. Because the idea would be that come out August 15th, we hit the ground and
Yep.
we get it through.
Okay.
So you'll be a big part of it, or whomever you designate.
Good.
Last time we met, we talked about having a sign that would express appreciation to the.
Yes, I need to get a hold of Katie to try to get some sort of a rendering. I have talked to Joe about it a little bit, and probably where
agenda is the authorized purchase of the new town hall interior lobby door. This is to complete the renovation of the entrance in the lobby of the town hall. Do you have a motion on that?
Make a motion that we purchase a new interior door for the town hall, pursuant to the tax specification not to exceed $9,600. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Then, last week, we had the opportunity to consider repairs to the vehicle that Chief Joe referenced earlier, being brought in for the code enforcement officer. And as you can see, the estimated repairs came in lower than what was budgeted, but the additional items required necessitate an additional appropriation.
I make a motion, we spend an additional $1,250 for repairs to the code enforcement vehicle.
Second. Before we do that, would you consider making it $1,300, because the $1,250 brings it just under of the budget?
Make a motion, we get $1,300.
Because the $1,250 with the extra left over brings it in less than the estimate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. We agreed that we would go through our action items, and we've got quite a list. We've been delinquent in doing that. I'd ask for, did you all have an opportunity to read the memo from Stefan with regard to closing out some of the bonds? And we have a motion to approve the memo from Stefan. This would allow us to close out, just to give you an idea, a land and water conservation fund grant from 2019. The project's been completed, and there were several others that were back prior to 2023, so we'd like to close those out. And then there's 5 that are currently in the works. There's a demolition for $43,850 for the Plainview Senior Housing Site. There's a grant for $306,254 for the renovation of California, and the Mass grant for the sidewalk that went from Town Hall, not Town Hall, went from Sawyer's Crossing Road down to the bridge for $75,000, and then there's the Mass grant from 2024, which we're going to utilize this year for the crossing lights on Sawyer's Crossing Road where the rail trail crosses over. And then we have a recreational trail program grant of $80,000. And there's a request to extend to 2026 the Plainview Senior Housing Grant of $43,850. Have a motion for that?
I make a motion to approve Stefan's memo in reference to the items you just read.
The closeouts to the Warden extension.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, you'll be happy. So, in our packets, I'd like to just go through some of the old business that we have. For example, we can strike that we're going to have a meeting on April 2nd and April 9th. We're here today. Next week, 4/16, we're going to, along with the regular meeting items, we're going to recognize the TIP Advisory Board. So Scott, you got a second chance to come back. And then on 4/26, we don't have anything particular. But going through some of the items, and I apologize, my pages got a little scrambled. There's currently a process that Alex initiated with Adam, and they're working on updating all of our board and committee members and their associated terms. We had some terms on the website that have expired, and some people that were no longer on the board or committee, so that's being updated. We will have an update with regard to our town administrator search at next week's meeting. We've completed our interviews. received 20 resumes for the position, so that's all passed. We can get rid of all of those. Any objection to that? Okay. We have ongoing position openings that we'll leave the way they are because they're currently being worked on. The detective, on-call firefighters and EMTs, police officers, public beach attendants, public beach lifeguards, town administrator, summer camp counselor, and summer camp lifeguard. So anybody who knows anybody that might be interested in those, by all means, let us know. We did have a notice, and Megan, this is just to get this stuff off of our old business, that with regard to the stove downstairs, it was a strong odor of propane because the pilots were always lit. So with Chief Mattson and his team, we've agreed that the propane is shut off, the handle's been taken off, the chief has put a lock on it, and those will only be turned on by the chief or somebody that he, somebody in his place, and it will only be done as needed, otherwise the pilot lights will stay off. And we had the town meeting follow-up. Article 4, we talked about briefly when the chief was up here, that the architect has sent out an RFP for general contractor. Those are due back on April 28th, and it's expected that week we will award the contract to the general contractor. Articles 5 and 12, those pertain to the water company and the fires and the bonding, the funding that was associated with that. We've notified the appropriate entities that those warrant articles failed. We've also indicated through Ben Dreyer, Underwood Engineering, that we're going to form a committee to take us forward for the next 18 months with regard to reevaluating whether we want to take another shot at the water company. And if it's still available in 2 years, then if that committee recommends that we do, we'll be better prepared for it. So I guess you can keep that on the list, Megan.
Okay.
Article 11 has to do with the creation of the TIF. Since we created the TIF district, the TIF advisory board, that'll be a 5-member board, and we're awaiting information that's either going to come from Alex or from our new town administrator, but that board will be formed in May. Town hall fixes, we're just acknowledging that we're doing some interior maintenance, some of which people can obviously see with the improved front entrance, the front door. If they come in, they can see that the lobby's been updated, and now we've just approved a new door from the lobby into the body of the building. Swanzey Lake Dam is one that we should keep on. We need to investigate that further and put out an RFQ for someone to start the process to repair that dam. We have the retaining wall at station number 2. That retaining wall was installed, and we approved the installation or the purchase and installation of a safety rail that the chief will coordinate the installation of with Joe DeRusso, so I think we can take that off, Megan. That's already been dealt with. Weber Hill stabilization, if anyone's gone by the Great South Road, they can see that we're well over 75% done, but we'll keep that on, Megan, because the construction is expected to be completed late summer. Trail improvements. We would have to check with Rail Trail to find out from them where we are in that process. Christian Hill Bridge replacement, that's ongoing. The town really is no longer directly involved with this. The state's taken over, and as far as I understand it, we've completed all that we're supposed to do. California and North Winchester Street reconstruction, that'll be brought to us next week by Joe DeRusso. The Grange Hall roof repair, that work's been completed. The walkthrough's been done, so we can take that off. The New Hampshire Hampshire DOT Route 32 bridge over Markham Brook and dry hydrant. That's something that's being worked on with DOT and Du Bois and King, and that's, as Michael indicated in his message that was given to us months ago. It's a slow process, but there will be a public hearing sometime this spring, but that'll be driven by DOT, not by us. The wastewater solar array, Joe will update us on that next week. And then the wastewater treatment plant study. As people are aware, Scott's made everybody aware, the wastewater treatment plant over here off of Dem and Thompson Highway is currently under study, and we've got to make necessary improvements in order to add additional hookups. The current study is estimated to be completed in October. Is there anything you could add to that, Scott, that you've been made aware of?
Nothing I've been made aware of, but in that study, I know they've been talking about possibly, I don't think they ever had to hook in from here to Keene, running it right up through 10 and all types of different things there. One thing that they should and could consider is land application on that field out there. Because the state encourages that, and it's not sewage going on the land, it's the waste of the water that normally goes into the river would be irrigated onto the fields there instead. So if that occurs, then you don't have to follow the permit for phosphorus or nitrogen or, let's see, you do have to do bacteria, but VODs, non-existent, TSS non-existent, for all the time you're irrigating on that field, if you did have that field right there. So that might be something you might want to look into as well. It might be cheaper to purchase that field than it would be to do some giant upgrade for that.
So what you're saying, if they did, we had us do away with it, we'd have to put the land back to where it was, and it'd be costly, is that what you're saying?
No, I don't know what you mean. I think you lost me there. I'm saying that the field that is around, there's like 50, 55 acres in that general vicinity of that treatment plant there, which could be irrigated in the summertime. They do it at different plants up north. They do it a lot of them too. They either inject the water in the ground or they just spray it on the field itself for grass. And, yeah, they can still hay it, I suppose. I don't know if they grow corn on there or not, but they can still hay it. But land application is something that you can look into. It wouldn't be year round, of course, because of the winter time. They'd still have to go in the river probably in the winter, but in the winter time you wouldn't have the phosphorus or I don't know if they're going to use, depending on what chemicals you use, but I don't know if they're going to put nitrogen in there or not. But you wouldn't have the criteria that you have to are subjected to during the summertime. And you could land apply for probably, I don't know, at least 60% of the year probably. But something they could look into. I don't know if they've looked into it or not, but they might want to.
You know the primary landowner quite well, and you probably have that conversation. Save us a few steps.
I do, but he's probably not the one. It's probably the landowner. I think it's the Walpole landowner that owns a lot of it around there as well. Because we did approach them on land application of the sludge lagoons, not land application of the wastewater itself. And they weren't in favor of that at all. And that's another thing the state encourages, but there are a few more things you have to do with that. But yeah, I don't know if that'd work or not with them. I don't know if they'd be up for that either. Something to consider for the future.
Would be something we should consider to cross off one way or the other.
I think so, because it's only going to get more restrictive for the things you have to meet for putting into the river. All the time it's going to go up and up and up, and the testing gets finer and finer and finer. Now it's down to parts per billion. It used to be parts per million, now it's down to parts per billion, and it'll probably get parts per trillion. And, the more they can test down, the stricter they're going to make all the plants be, regardless of whether it's hurting anything or not. You're going to do that. And to have it. But the phosphorus and the nitrogen and the ammonia would be great for the field out there because that's what the plant like. Again, think about it.
We'll let you take point on that, Scott.
Well, yeah, I discuss it with them. They're going to be discussing what the field do. If there's a meeting there, let me know. I'll attend it.
All right, thanks. West Swanzey AA Park, this one indicates that staff is working on closeout maintenance. Can you make a note that we should determine where we are with that? Brownfield improvements, I know they're actively seeking grants. That's kind of on hold. The West Swansea TIF district, we can remove that because it's been approved. The West Swansea Water Company purchase and improvement, we can remove that because it was not approved. And the fire station project, we can remove that because it was approved. And we have the correspondence from the Conservation Commission awarding a contract to Moosewood Ecological LLC to complete open space plan by 2026. This is just an FYI to keep the board up to date on some of the Conservation Commission's upcoming plans. Sherry, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
When we approved the contract award with Moosewood on Monday night, but, you know, as a courtesy, we just have been talking to Alex and wanted you guys to know what's going on. So this is just part of the process we've been going through for the past 2 or 3 years, kind of working up to redoing our open space plan, which last was done in 2004. And so it's something you're supposed to do every 10 years, and we've kind of let it go for 20. So we're doing it now, coming into compliance, and this is going to be the last phase of that. So back in 2018, before I joined the Concom, there was a natural resource inventory done by Moosewood, and then an ecological assessment, and then the last year we did the wetlands evaluation and kind of an audit of our regulations and ordinances looking at natural resources. So this last part is going to create some updated maps, create a story map, and we're hoping to talk to Adam and Stefan about working what we learn into the town's GIS system so that there'll be some overlays there that people can look at. And then one of the other outputs of this is going to be a conservation plan. So looking at the parts of town that, you know, where a number of values will overlap. So, you know, where are our most important farmlands, wetlands, recreation lands, wildlife habitat, that sort of thing. And sort of looking at those areas of town and being able to say, all right, you know, how can we, whether it's actually creating conservation land there or it's just working together with landowners to create, you know, some more education around what they can do on their land, because they might have a really special piece with some important resources on it.
Great. For my application, where does the funding come from?
We have a conservation fund that the Conservation Committee uses. So it doesn't come from town budget. It's funding that we get every year, a portion of the funding from people who take their land out of current use. That comes to the Conservation Fund so that we can do stuff like this.
So is that a part of the current use penalty?
Yes.
And how is that monitored by the state, or is it dictated by the state?
That's a question you might have to ask Alex, and it was always something that just kind of automatically comes to us, and I'm not sure who oversees that. It might be Teresa. Yeah, good question.
I'm just curious, because if that's the case, then it's obviously coming out of the taxpayers in town, and that's why I appreciate you coming tonight to explain to us how the funds are being used.
Yeah, now that's something that I guess it's been done the same way going back years and years. So I'm not sure who does it or oversees it, but we appreciate it, and it allows us to, you know, work with the town to help protect our natural resources.
Any other questions? Thank you, Sherry.
I'm just curious, what kind of number is that annually?
Number?
That you're acquiring, you don't know where it's coming from, but do you know?
Well, I knew where it's coming from, I just don't know who oversees it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it varies, it depends on how many people take their land out of current use.
No average or anything, you don't have any number?
I would say probably $8,000 or $10,000, something like that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Last bite at the apple, public input. Anybody else have anything they'd like to bring to the board's attention? Thanks very much. We're going to go into non-public. We appreciate you coming out. Thanks again.